All right, welcome. This is episode 3 of the Athlete's Edge, powered by PVL. We are on social at Pure Vital Labs. You can shop online at pvl.com. And today, very excited. I've been chasing this guy down for a bit. Very busy guy. Today, we have someone who's won a Stanley Cup with the Penguins. Actually spent some time with Toronto Maple Leafs. Solid OHL career. Great NHL career. Fitness and health enthusiast. Plant-based athlete, which I want to dig into, and currently heard on the airwaves of Sportsnet and the Fan 590 on the starting lineup, Mike Zigomanis.
How you doing? What's going on, Ian?
That's a big intro.
Yeah, that's a long one. Yeah.
You got a lot going on. Is it funny now, kind of full circle, when you started with in sports and getting interviewed and stuff like that. Now, we'll talk a little bit about your transition, but now you're doing interviews and getting the players on TV.
Yeah, I think the interview process, part of the radio show, the morning show I'm doing right now, is maybe the most difficult part to kind of adjust to. But kind of developing Scott MacArthur, who's the other host on the show, he's helped me out a lot, and just kind of learning the whole business, the whole media side. There's a lot more to it than just talking to someone and coming up with all these questions, and you have to make it conversational. You have to talk about things that are relevant, and I'm sure with the podcast that you've got going now, you kind of realize that it's not when you're in your car listening while you drive, or you're going for a walk listening to a podcast, you don't really think of those kind of things. So it's opened my eyes to the media side and how many moving parts there are to putting a show on, and how difficult it can be at times, but enjoying the process and really having fun with it.
No, that's great. And we enjoy listening. I have to be a remiss if I didn't sort of get into what's happening right now. I mean, you guys talk about it every day on your show, and COVID and the return to sports and things like that. What's just your overall feeling about, as an athlete, and put yourself in the shoes of the guys today, your feeling about coming back, hub cities, the whole, people debating, is it worth it? The distraction. Sports is such a great distraction for most of us that it's so needed. But what's your feeling, if you step back and you were in the States again, coming back as a player?
Well, I'd want to come back and play and finish the season. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to come back and just rush through, say, 2 rounds of playoffs and award a winner. I'd want some kind of, similar format that we usually have. So I think all the leagues recognize that and understand that the players, they want some integrity to the finish of the season. So whether that's having a couple regular season games, finishing a play-in round, but if the playoffs are going to be finished, have some kind of resemblance to what it used to be in prior years. And leagues are doing that. NBA is doing a little bit more expanded format. The NHL is doing that kind of first round play-in. And then they look like they're going to do a best of 5 and then 3 best of 7s, or 2 best of 5s and 2 best of 7s. So I think it's going to be even tougher to win a Stanley Cup this year. So everyone's talking about these asterisks, how the season didn't get finished. It's a shortened playoff series. It's not going to be the same. But if everyone remembers the lockout in 2013, played 48 games, went into the playoffs, and no one's talked about it since. So I don't see it as big of an issue. The players want to get back.
They do.
The leagues want to get back. The owners want to get back. And to do it as quick as possible while, respecting the cities and the states, provinces, health concerns, and listening to the players and the organizations, making sure everyone's safe and healthy, while at the same time not jeopardizing any of our local communities, should be at the forefront. And that return to play, all those moving parts, if you can kind of satisfy all those different groups, I'm fine with the leagues coming back.
What about from as an athlete and somebody that obviously, you've taken care of yourself, you were probably among the fittest players in the dressing room at the time you were playing. At least it seems like fitness is such a huge part. What about the amount of time it would take to prepare and get ready when these guys have been sort of off the ice? You can only do so much dry land stuff. What do you think in terms of a timeline for getting your body ready to play?
Yeah, well, that year of the lockout, I was at the Leafs camp. I was with the Marlies playing to start the year. The AHL wasn't on strike, so And I called a couple players. I can't remember how long it was, but it wasn't much past a week, and it was right into games. One player said he thinks it was only like a 4-day training camp. Now they're talking about doing 3 weeks, right? So right now the plan is for the players to return July 10th and then having the first exhibition games August 1st. And then you play in the 2 games and getting right into either the round robin to seed 1 through 4 or the play-in round. But what's different about the year of the lockout is that players were skating on their own, and guys were almost, I don't want to say in game shape, but guys were on the ice 5-6 times a week. So it's a little easier to hold a training camp for 4 days and get into it, versus a lot of guys haven't touched their skates since mid-March.
Right.
So this is a very, unique situation. And if you're a team owner or general manager, you don't want your players getting hurt to just try to come back and, have a 5-game playing round where guys are going to get injured next season, which could start November, December, January. And, you're behind the 8 ball next year as well. So you really have to be careful on bringing the players back too soon. But I feel like with a 3-week training camp in August, if they do come back July 10th, and August 1st exhibition game would be more than enough time to get ready.
What going back just in terms of, again, the fitness level, how much of it, you hear about the guys today, there's almost no off season. The guys are in crazy good shape compared to when you came into the league and things like that. I mean, how much has that changed? It used to be that training camp was meant to get in shape, and guys were smoking darts and eating hot dogs, and now there's basically no off season. What about that transition, the fitness level, and maybe why that's probably helping guys get back faster than ever?
Yeah, it's probably, when you say it's changed 20 years ago, you'll have guys from the 90s and 80s saying, hey, I trained all summer. But I really do think when you talk to the bulk of NHL players, I think 20 years ago or 25 years ago was kind of that timeline. And we were talking about it on the morning show on 590 last week, and how, who's responsible. And Gary Roberts' name always gets thrown around, how he changed everything with his neck injury, and how he really started to look at his diet and how you train to get ready for a season. And the joke was, one of the older players that played in the 90s with him said, hey, I don't mind you training and worrying about your diet, but you didn't have to tell everybody about it and do all these media interviews, because now I have to go and do it, right? Because if one team does it, other teams and other GMs hear about it, they want their guys doing it. So, it's definitely changed, and it's better for the game. Guys are in the best shape, that they've ever been. The training is, it really is a 12-month a year, 12-month a year job. So it's one of those things where, you don't have any time off. I remember my first year in 2001 too. I'd come back home, and maybe it was a 3-week break, but by the time the end of my career, I don't think I took any time off. There was, maybe a week trip, but I would still, do my core exercises or some of my rehab exercises on things that was, that weren't 100%. And I mean, some of the things guys are doing now, I can just for my career from 01 to 2014 it ended with a weight coach, a track coach, a Pilates instructor, yoga, nutritionist, a naturopath, a homeopath, 2 different chiropractors, getting laser done, getting acupuncture done.
Amazing.
It's really, I'd love to know the hours that I spent outside of just the regular season. By the time, all kidding aside, by the time the season started, some summers I was just so mentally fatigued, and I never thought about that. And I tweeted out once, I don't know what kind of reception it got from everybody involved in getting athletes ready, but I said, no matter what kind of physical training you do, if you aren't mentally refreshed and prepared to start your training camp, it doesn't matter, what you do off the ice.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that's key. And I want to dig into getting into your diet and things like that in that transition, because I think our listeners will think that's really interesting. And being part of obviously a sports nutrition company, we're seeing that category go through the roof. But you were doing it before it was cool and game changers and all that stuff. But let's go back. I'm always interested to get the angle of where it started and this and that. I mean, I've read that you put your skates on at like 4 years old, and it was sort of you had a lot of support from your parents, but go back into, just starting out in hockey, Did it start casual? Did you know I'm gunning for the NHL? Take us through that early start and sort of how it became.
With the diet, it's something that started as a kid. My mother was always, trying to find the latest, I guess, health benefits, ways to eat, things to eat that would help you live a more healthier lifestyle. And, it was something crazy back in the 90s was not drinking milk and only fruit before 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
It sounds crazy, but now it's the norm for a lot of people. And I know still a lot of people have a lot of dairy in their life, and that's okay. I'm not here to preach on what people should eat. And I know I started living a kind of a plant-based lifestyle, about 15 years ago now. And it's kind of changed and evolved and setbacks and taken it to the extreme at some points of the last 15 years. But yeah, I'm primarily plant-based now. So it started with my mom, and, I wasn't always healthy. I always tell guys I played with when they ask me for advice, I said, I used to eat McDonald's all weekend and day before games. And they said, really? I'm like, yeah. And like, you're so healthy now. How did that happen? I said, just, small changes. But yeah, so I became a plant-based athlete, about 15 years ago, and came in and out of it. It was like kind of no meat, then no fish, then no dairy, back and forth. And then at one point became totally 100% plant-based. And then since then, you can't be perfect with it. I did have a bad concussion and career-ending head injury.
Right.
And talking to the neurologists, half were you only want seafood as part of your diet and some animal protein. Others were like, it's shown no results. There's no proof of that,
right,
as long as you're getting the right DHA, and I'm not good with all the supplements names, DHA and forget about the other EPA and DHA, whatever. The oils are.
The fatty acids. I mean, I guess that's you hear that as the counterpart to the vegan diet, especially for athletes. That they're not getting enough for their hormones, or they're not getting enough certain, omega-6 or whatever, some of the fatty acids that you just simply can't get through plant diet. But I think now, basically, since you started, it's so much easier in terms of you can get Beyond Meat this, and you can buy vegan, EFAs. You can get, tons and tons of Plant Pro, and it's got, stuff for athletes with inflammation and things like that. It seems like the industry has risen to the occasion in terms of providing, guys like you with options that don't really make it as challenging as it was 15 years ago, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's changed a lot. The whole plant-based community and what's available today is in 10 years is tough to even comprehend. It's amazing that there are all these options now for vegetarians or people who are plant-based. But yeah, it hasn't been 100% since talking to the neurologists. I've tried to incorporate seafood from time to time. For animal products, the only thing I could do was goat cheese from time to time. That's as far as I've gone. So I've been off the meat for a number of years now, and I felt healthy. The seafood kind of bothers me a little bit. It doesn't quite feel right at times, making me sick.
Sure.
So that's been tough. I can't do any of the fish oils. They make me sick. I've tried almost every brand. So that's been a little tough on that end, but this is all, recommendations from neurologists. So that's been a little bit tough, but my diet's 99 or 98% plant-based to this point. And I try to go, I do some of these nutrition talks, and everyone's, I think, so focused in on the word vegan, right? Everybody wants to be a vegan today. And if there's like 200 people in the audience, I'll say, who's vegan in here? And, 99% of people put their arm up, and then I'm like, all right, who's had honey? Put your arm down. And like half the arms go down. Honey's not vegan, right? It's insects. And then I say, who's had red wine? And then another half of them go down, and they're like, red wine? How is that not vegan? I'm like, well, there's like a fish product they use in the in the process where they make red wine. Most red wines, they do have vegan red wines, but the majority of them are all used with this fish product. So I try to tell people, don't focus on the labeling of what you are, and just make sure you're eating healthy, know where your food comes from, and whatever it is, there is a healthy way to do it, and the one diet's not for everybody. So those are kind of that's the advice I give to people.
Did you notice a difference in energy levels? I mean, I know so many athletes, especially in the pros, because of the schedule and the pounding you take. I mean, it's anti-inflammatories, it's painkillers, it's this and that. I mean, a vegan-based diet is supposed to be very, very good for inflammation and digestion and the body healing and things like that. Did you notice significant differences in your injuries, in your recovery time, and in your energy levels on the ice?
Yeah, for sure. The inflammation was the big one.
Yeah.
I don't think it made me a better player. I think the energy that I had definitely improved a little bit, but it was more the inflammation on recovery and injuries, and just how your body feels on a day-by-day basis. It definitely shown improvement. I had some digestive issues before. Those definitely got better with the vegan diet, and it helped since. I don't know if they so much got better where, the animal products were making me sick, but it was, I think, everything else. There's certain even, nuts and seeds and vegetables and fruits that might not sit well with a lot of people. I think once I eliminated all the animal products, I don't know if my system was a little bit more cleaner, but I started to respond differently to foods before. For me, a lot of foods with lectins in them were really bothering me, and I never really knew that before. I had a lot of issues digestively, but I couldn't really pinpoint it. Once I stopped eating animal products, I had a problem with like tomatoes, eggplants, a lot of seeds, different plant-based foods were bothering me. And you dig in and do a little bit more research into lectins, and they kind of cause these micro tears in your stomach where you don't really feel them, but that's how a lot of disease kind of develops in bodies. And I mean, we could sit here and talk for 10 hours about this and how lectins are in your body and how you can get them out. And they said, well, you don't eat tomatoes anymore. What do you do for pasta sauce? And I said, well, once you cook a tomato, you take the seeds out, you skin it, there's no more lectin in it.
Okay.
So there's ways to get the lectin out of these foods, but you could, I've made, it's funny. Everyone's like, oh, you're so crazy with your diet. I said, you know what? It's crazy if I sit there and I think about it constantly, and I'm like, oh yeah, I had white rice, I should have had brown rice, or things like that, or white bread or brown bread. And I don't really do it like that. I've become more of a hobby for me, more to help people out that don't have time to make it their hobby, or not interested in it, but they want some quick advice. So I've taken it on as more of a hobby than just digging in and so concerned about every single bite I have. So that's kind of what happened.
Yeah. Cool. So let's go, Mike. Let's go back. It's funny. I mean, I know this story follows you around, and you're probably even sick of talking about it from your draft year. But it just is such a bizarre story for someone to hear in an error. You were drafted by the Buffalo Sabres, 64th overall, 99 draft. And then what happened?
Yeah, it was, we ended up, it went right down to the deadline day for signing, and we ended up agreeing to the terms, but we were going back and forth the contracts, and 2 different contracts actually got put in. So the league had a bit of an issue with it. The Buffalo Sabres put the wrong contract in, and the league put it on hold over the weekend because it was on a Friday, and so it didn't get dealt with until the Monday. So the NHL finally said, okay, we'll let it in. But the NHLPA said, whoa, we don't want to let these in. We want to stop this from happening again. We want to change some rules in the CBA with signings and different different laws and the different bylaws, I guess, in the CBA. And the NHL said, no, we'll deal with that in the next CBA. So the NHLPA said, all right, we're not letting the contracts through. So that's what happened with me and 2 other players. So all 3 of us end up going back in the draft. And yeah, it's a crazy story. I still get asked about it today, all these years later. So the fax issue, but I was lucky to go back to the Carolina Hurricanes.
So you went to Carolina in was it 2001? I think you started there.
Yeah.
After a very great successful OHL career, and you battled me. You sort of found your way. I followed your career and watching you, and you kind of really became a dependable um, penalty killer. Third line guy. Just a lot known for face-offs. Talk about finding your role, and did that have to change from you're used to being this player? I have to adapt to something new if I know I'm gonna to be on this team.
Yeah, coming out of junior as a 40-goal scorer and scoring goals your whole life, and then you get to the NHL, can't score at the pace you used to. So yeah, if you don't adapt and change and figure out a new role on how to contribute to a team, you're going to be out of a job pretty quick. So I learned that my first couple of years, and I felt like I could score at the NHL level and had 14 goals one year in Phoenix. I don't think 20 goals was out of the question. I had a hard time staying healthy. After that year, I had a bad shoulder injury in Pittsburgh, and then had a really difficult time getting my body to where I needed to be physically for an NHL season, which was unfortunate. So by the time I actually did figure it out, it was almost kind of too late. But yeah, it turned into a penalty killer, checker, fourth liner, really changed my game. I didn't quite have probably the toughness I needed for a fourth liner or the speed. I find those guys are either super fast or are really tough, and I kind of didn't have either. I was known as maybe somebody with more of a playmaking, higher IQ player, and it was difficult to adapt to the NHL in that role. So you have to become that, that fast, really good checker or that really tough fourth liner. And it was tough to fill that role to the extent that I needed to stay competitive in the NHL. And yeah, I finished my last 3 years in the minors, which was difficult, but happy that I could, stretch out to a 13-year career. I was told I'd never played Bantam hockey in the
right?
Toronto minor hockey league. So then it was like midget. Okay, you can't play midget, and then you can't go to junior. Then went to junior. So it was difficult coming up because I was always told, you're never going to make it next year because I wasn't big enough, I wasn't fast enough, wasn't tough enough, and yeah, I had great coaches, great mentors. My parents were great. My family was great, always supported me growing up. And I had all these resources to help me have a pro career. And, I appreciate all those people that helped me get there. I definitely couldn't have done it by myself.
Well, and all that, I mean, geez, you're told you're not going to play, and not going to make it, and end up hoisting a Stanley Cup over your head, which even some of the best, even the best players in the NHL and people that dream of getting there never will do that in their entire career or lifetime. So, I mean, everyone, would want to know what's that feeling like. And did you imagine it as a kid, and was it the same? I mean, go take us through that process of hoisting the Stanley Cup over your head.
Yeah, that whole 2008-9 year was kind of bizarre. So the year before, I was coming back to the Coyotes. I'd signed a 2-year contract extension and started out the season okay. The team wasn't doing great. They sent me and a bunch of players. They traded, sent down. So I was up and down from the minors for a bit, and finished the season in the minors with the San Antonio Rampage. Coming back to camp, I kind of could see the writing on the wall that they had absolutely no plans to bring me in, but I was under contracts. So they brought me in for training camp. Kind of strange when you go into training camp and you have an idea that there's no chance you're going to make it. So it was a little bit awkward in September. So they sent me down to San Antonio. I ended up taking all my stuff down, my car, everything. I get there for a practice the next day and then an exhibition game. I wake up the next day to work out because we didn't have the ice that day, and I got a call that I was traded. I was just kind of surprised. You don't really you just get sent down from the Coyotes. You had no chance to make the team. Now you're in the minors in San Antonio, and it's 100 degrees outside. And they said you got traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I was just like, Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm like, Crosby, Malkin, and the Penguins. God. Like, are you? Yeah, they'd just gone to the Stanley Cup Finals the year before, and I was thrilled, and it was pretty much pack up my stuff and fly out that night. So they were coming back from 2 games in Sweden. I got to practice I believe on that Wednesday, and then their home opener was on the Thursday, and it was right into it. So yeah, they wanted me for that fourth line role. So, in 1 second I'm on a stepper machine and at a gym in San Antonio, getting a workout in. And then, within 48 hours, I'm sitting next to Sidney Crosby in the igloo in Pittsburgh, meeting Mary Lemieux going into the rink. So when they tell you your luck can change just that quick, I think that's the most extreme 48 hours I think I'd ever had before. And it was a thrill playing there. I ended up getting hurt and battling the shoulder injuries from years prior and had to have surgery. So it was a little bit difficult. I come in, play, I was holding a role there for the team, penalty killing and being a fourth line checker and a guy that could kind of, play up in the lineup when guys were injured. And then all of a sudden I got injured and didn't finish the season, but was around with the team and got to practice in the playoffs with them. And it was a great experience. And they had me included with my name on the cup, which was a thrill, but didn't get to play in the playoffs, which is tough when you
Sure.
think of lifting the cup, you figure of, making that last second play where you're winning the draw, scoring the goal. So not being able to play in the playoffs was tough, but being there with the team and really enjoyed the whole process.
Did you get your day? You always hear the funny stories, the Oilers leaving the Stanley Cup in the pool, the Rangers taking it to scores in New York. Did you get your day with the Cup?
Yeah, I had my day with the Cup in Markham, and then we had it in Toronto. Great. So it was fun for all my friends and family. I mean, that was really winning the Cup was great, but it was more about watching my friends and family with it, which made it worth it. If I didn't have a chance to really share it, once you win it, it's like, okay, great. But watching my friends and family enjoy it was definitely better than winning it or better than having the ring or my name on the cup.
Yeah.
Just watching their reaction and their days with it and telling the stories was worth it. But back to the story, what you mentioned, the cup in the pool with the Oilers, it actually ended up in the pool in Mario's house, which they had a big problem with. And it's funny. The whole thing with the Oilers is everyone says, well, when did they actually have a keeper of the cup? The keeper of the cup, so now the NHL has someone with it 24/7. They know exactly where it is, but that was never the case. They used to just give the Stanley Cup to the teams. And apparently the story is the Oilers were winning it so much and had the cup all those years that they were partying the one summer and they just left it in the room at the hotel that they were partying at. NHL was like, where's the cup? No one from the Edmonton Oilers had a clue where it was because no one wanted it anymore. So they left it in a hotel room and they didn't have a clue. So that's where they brought the keeper of the cup. Apparently that's how the story started. Then they put a curfew on it. Guys were putting it outside the restaurant and bar windows in Pittsburgh, and they had it in the pool. So then they put like an 11 o'clock curfew on it.
That's amazing.
But yeah, so it's all these stories about the cup. It's all banged up around the top from people dropping it, and
I love it.
Man, it's crazy some of the stories that you hear.
So I guess the ultimate too. I mean, coming from Toronto originally, you get to finish your career. Although not a full season, probably not as much as you wanted to play, but you got to finish your career in Toronto with in the NHL at least, putting on a Maple Leafs jersey. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was great. I always dreamed about playing for the Maple Leafs. You grew up watching them in the Maple Leaf Gardens and going to games as a kid in the 80s and watching, Gary Leeman, Wendell Clark, Doug Gilmour, and finally getting a chance to put it on. Great thrill for my family and I and my friends coming to all the games. It's too bad it only lasted a couple months there, but even the couple years with the Marlies, it was still great to be with the organization. Yeah. Something I always dreamed of as a kid, and you get to live that out. It was great, and I appreciate the whole Leafs organization for signing me and bringing me into onto their team and giving me that opportunity. And I'm still involved with the alumni, although I wasn't there long. I did play a number of games in the NHL, so I feel like I'm kind of representing former NHL players when we go into events, and it's great to connect with the MLSE family and partners and the community, and especially since it's a city I grew up playing in.
So fast forward to your broadcasting career, where you are now. Did you have that in the back of your mind, finishing up playing, that it's kind of something that you were gravitating towards? Was it an easy transition? Was it something that you just came naturally, or talk about getting into the radio, and you also do, I know, Leaf broadcasts too sometimes on Sportsnet. Talk about the transition of becoming a broadcaster from an athlete. It's not easy for everybody.
Yeah, it wasn't really something that was on my radar. I had done a couple of segments or shows on Leafs Lunch with TSN.
Sure.
And that was a number of years ago. And I've had different, outlets asked to come out and see if it's something you'd be interested in. And finally, I hooked up with Sportsnet 590 The Fan, and was going to do these Leaf hours at 10 o'clock with Jeff Blair, and really enjoyed my time with him. And if it wasn't for Jeff Blair, I probably wouldn't be where I am. He was always a lot of fun to go on with for that hour, and it was just Leafs talk and a little bit of hockey talk on the outside as well. But it was something that I enjoyed, and that kind of went to Hockey Central at noon. That was a little bit more serious on TV all across the U.S. Enjoyed that process and joining that crew of, like the Nick Kiprioses, Doug McLean's, and, going on with all, David Amber and the great hosts they have there. So that was a lot of fun. And then from there, started doing Leafs pre and post game with Gord Stellick, and I knew Gord or listened to him growing up, so that was a huge thrill going on with him, and a little bit nervous there, which was tough since I knew Gord as a kid. So, but a lot of fun, and he taught me a lot about. I learned a lot from him just going on and doing those pre and posts with him. And then after that, I started doing some 3-hour shows on All Sports with Scotty Mack, and filled in for a couple weeks, and had some good chemistry, and just kind of developed from there. And we started the morning show in September, and it's gone through some changes since then, but the show has been great since I guess end of February, and we have a lot of fun, and Hugh Burrell's on the show. And so the three of us, he kind of comes in and out. He does a lot of the updates, so he's busy a lot during some of the hours, and he's not on for the whole thing. But going on with Scotty Mack, learning a lot from just watching him, day in, day out, how he prepares, and how he interviews guests, and just the whole process is a lot more than there's a lot more to it than I thought. I think a lot of former athletes realize that there is a lot of work, and you have a coach you kind of helps you work with, and I have certain exercises I have to do away from the studio, and stuff that hopefully helps me out when I'm on air. So I've been able to do that. And then additionally, I'm doing some Leafs TV stuff for the Marlies games. I'm doing intermission, I guess, kind of analyst, 4 or 5 minute hits.
Sure.
And that's been a lot of fun doing the live TV, and it's a lot different than radio. I enjoy it as well. Still have a long ways to go, but what's made me realize I respect everyone in the media world, and the job they do. I can't believe it. It's truly incredible, and how they can go on and they just come on, whether it's a rinkside reporter, a host, an analyst, a producer. I used to just think everyone showed up with their microphone and a bag, a camera on their side, and okay, let's just film this now. But the production is crazy, and there's so much to it. So, the media, everyone that's in media, it's an incredible job they all do.
And you also spend some time with U of T, right? As a development advisor. You're working
I've been an assistant coach for the past 2 years. So doing a little bit of the development work earlier on in the weeks, and then as it goes on, we usually play Friday, Saturdays. So on the bench the last 2 years. Ryan Medell is the head coach. Andrew Dovey's the assistant coach on the defensive side. So I'm not there 100% of the time, but I'm there most days, most games, and it's been a great experience. I've learned a ton. I'm happy I've gone there. Just great group, a bunch of guys, great coaching staff, great staff that works there. Everyone at U of T's first class, and it's just the whole program has been a lot of fun to join. And like I said, I'm learning a ton. And if that is ever an option where coaching or scouting or player development, these last 2 years have been great. And going into next year, I'm planning on being on the bench again when I can, when my schedule lets me outside of of the morning show, or if I have to do any events with Sportsnet. And it's like I said, I enjoy going to Varsity Arena there, and I work out there on campus. I use the pool, use their facilities, and it's a great community to be a part of. And we've done a lot there in the last 2 years, where there's been a bit of transition. It's with the coaching staff, Ryan Medell and Andrew Dovey. It's been 3 years for them, and we were in first place last year in the conference. So it's been a big turnaround for them, and for the team and for the university. And it's something where a lot of players call the team now to come and play, where usually it's a recruiting process. We have to chase guys around, and from 2 years ago to now, it's everyone's coming to us to play for us, because Ryan Medell and Andrew Dovey, they do such a great job, and with the program and developing something where guys can, it's tough, right? Because guys, it's almost where your dreams stop, right? Because we get a lot of either junior A guys or tier 2 guys that maybe aren't going to go and play pro. They're maybe going to the AHL or East Coast, but instead of that, they're coming, getting their education, and they're getting to play at a high level. So it's difficult, because it's almost a sense their NHL dreams, I don't like to say are over, but they're on pause, because guys do make the NHL. So if that's their aspirations, they can come in, get their degree, play competitive hockey, have some fun, and then maybe go to pro after. I think it's a great option for guys. And I appreciate all the players these last 2 years that have allowed me to be part of their journey.
That's great. I mean, we enjoy listening to you. We've enjoyed watching your career. I always ask, and I think it's interesting just because you've excelled in 2 different areas that people sort of both dream to get into, or some in some respect. But what's a trait that if you had to narrow it down, that you see in the best? I mean, people that have inspired you, people that have brought you along, is there something that aspires to you, and you focus on, that you see in people over the years that has really stood out?
Yeah, there's a lot of people. I've had a lot of mentors, and I still talk to my grade 7 teacher, Mr. Rob Watson, and he always follows my career and would send me letters when I was a junior, and I still try to chat with him when I can, and we send each other WhatsApp. So he's definitely someone who, at grade 7, I always was the greatest student, and he really kind of turned me around and showed me that it could be fun. It's something, that should be a priority. And not that it was never a priority, but maybe something I didn't concentrate as much as I should have when I was younger. And for whatever reasons, your environment, or whether you just want to play sports and hockey, and there's another side of it. You get your education and still enjoy the rest of your interests you have. So he's someone that was really influential there, where go and pursue your dreams, but you have education here, and it's a great tool to have later on in life. My parents were both big role models for me, and I talked to them even when I was away in junior or in pro. I'd be on the phone with them every single day. So I'm happy the relationship I had with them, and they definitely helped me get to where I got in my career.
Well, Mike, it was great to chase you down today and spend some time. You can find Mike on social at Mike Zigomanis, on the morning show on The Fan, on the starting lineup. It's from 6 to 9. Until next time, be safe and keep well from your friends at PVL. Thank you.